Welcome to Discuss With Us podcast, where we are unpacking the world through a Christian lens. I am your host, Darcy Durkowski, along with my husband, Brian, and our intention is to pose topics, trending and otherwise, and unpack them with the help of some research, insights from our different backgrounds, and even some listener input in a way that is thought-provoking and entertaining. So get comfortable, grab your favorite beverage, and discuss with us.
Welcome back to another episode of Discuss With Us. Darce on the ones and twos. How you doing?
I'm good. I wouldn't say I'm rested after Mother's Day weekend at the lake.
Yes. Happy Mother's Day to every mother out
Happy
there.
Belated by the time you listen to this, probably.
Yeah.
But we did do a motherhood episode for y'all.
That's
last
why we
week.
did it before.
Yes.
We are back from the lake. We were supposed to be there till tomorrow, but given the questionable weather, which first off, anyone who didn't want any more rain, we left. So you're welcome because now it did not rain.
Yeah. It's like washing your car and
Exactly.
you know it's going to rain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Except in this case, if you pack up from camping early, it just won't.
Yeah.
I questioned just loading back up and going back out there, but I did not have it in me.
Nope. Not that much energy. One day these lake trips will be, I'm sure, relaxing for us. They are not necessarily that now, but, you do these like kind of hard things and exhausting things for the sake of your memories and your kids, and it's good. But Dylan is challenging right now.
Well,
he just runs.
Yeah, found that out. Last trip to Arkansas, he learned how to walk. Now he
So he was just kind of toddling
boundaries.
around at that point. But
Yeah.
now he just runs everywhere and
No regard for anything.
yeah.
And then the sleeping part. But if you want more information on camping, go listen to the camping episode we did. Haha.
Nice little plug. Okay.
But so we came home early. It's Mother's Day. We got the Mother's Day episode out, but we are going to pound through another
Yes.
topic.
So this one occurred to me. I think I was trying to figure out where this topic came from, and I can't really even pinpoint it. But I think, and I'll mention this
I think
later.
we touched on it during the Lenten episode.
We did, but I think it came from part of the book that I'm reading, which I'll kind of get to.
Yeah, we're all out of
bit
order.
later.
You had a Q&A session.
Yes, I
think.
have a Q&A segment that we're going to do. Did a Q&A box on our Instagram. Ask
Hey.
us anything. Our
Discuss
Instagram.
_with us.
That's right. Discuss_with us. So got some questions in. These will be kind of interesting. So we'll start off with that. And
All
then,
right.
have we even said what our topic is?
No, well, they'll get there. They'll just keep listening.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I guess you got to stay tuned.
That's a tease.
Okay. All right. So first question, and fun fact, this one comes from our listener in the UK.
Hey, across the waters,
Yeah.
pond, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So what has been the easiest and most challenging parts to podcasting?
The easiest would be the conversation. I think they,
Yeah.
for the most part, flow pretty easy for us.
And even the topics has been pretty easy thus far.
Yeah, we really haven't had to scrape for them super
Yeah.
hard. The hardest is without a doubt trying to do it once a week,
Yes
carving
and
out
no.
the time.
I think the hardest is we keep wanting to record pre-weekend, and we can't ever seem to do it.
That's why I'm saying that's the recording part's the hardest.
I guess just getting the time. Yeah.
Once we're doing it, it's easy.
Yeah.
But just carving out the time.
Yeah. The equipment and the editing and all that stuff, there was a huge learning curve with the
Yes.
editing, but that part is fairly easy because, we also don't piece a whole lot together. It's usually just y'all get what you get. There's
Yep.
not a lot of cuts and edits here, so
Every now and then, but we pretty much just power through.
Yeah. And then I am trying to be
Or we're that good.
maybe.
Maybe.
The one of the other difficult parts thus far has been like if we want to have a guest on, just trying to again the scheduling part coming out here to
Yeah.
record. I am trying to be better about that, and I've mapped out kind of our next few months of different guests and topics
If
and
it
things
lines
like
up,
that.
yeah, that
And
was pretty. Take some of the pressure off.
well, yeah, and it just will allow us to accommodate the guests better. That's like why we're waiting on our part 2 series is to accommodate guests. And so that was last minute on our part. So I'm trying to be a little more on top of it. We do have a handful of guests already lined up for some episodes this summer.
Very
so,
cool.
Yeah, and some good topics. So I
Less
think that will be
talking
good.
of us.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Did we cover easiest and hardest?
I
Yeah.
think so.
Okay. All right. Let's see what our next question is. Okay. Who does most of the cooking?
That's easy. I do.
Yeah, Brian does. I did.
You know how to cook.
Oh
It's
yes, I
just-
know how to cook. I did. I did cook. All the way up until probably we got pregnant with our first son, and I was sick
Yeah.
and like just didn't want to. Food was not appetizing, and so you took over. But I have, I haven't looked back.
Yeah.
I'm. I call me. I don't know. You call me sometimes the soup queen. I do soups.
Yes.
If we're ever doing soup, that's me. I like doing soups
Absolutely.
and stuff. But yeah, Brian cooks all the time, and it's wonderful. He's a great cook. Okay, let's see. Ooh, this one's kind of more geared to me, and I have not given it any thought.
Oh, good.
Favorite mom hack or mom tool to make life easier? This comes from a soon-to-be mom.
Well, because okay. I would say infant, because it's different ages or different things.
Yeah, okay, so let's go. Let's focus baby. Help me. One of my favorite like tools that I don't know if tools is the right word, but
That thing that sucks the boogers out of their nose.
okay, no. Everybody has those and they have different variations. They do like the electric one now, so we're old school. No, I was going to say that that little flower thing that you put in the sink to bathe them.
Oh,
when they're like teeny tiny.
Yeah.
That thing was super handy. Mom hack. I don't know. It's like I said last week, you just do it.
Yeah. No matter what we tell you, it won't work for your kid anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's different. You just do it. Don't be afraid to ask for help or ask advice because of all people, I think moms are like super willing to share it. Like if you have a question.
Oh yeah, look at a Facebook group.
Oh yeah, I know. Like if anybody has ever texted me a question about something regarding momming, it's a novel
like a
that I sent.
two-paragraph answer.
Yeah, exactly. So we're all willing to give you all that we know. So reach out. There's my mom advice.
There.
Okay, let's see. We got a couple more. This is interesting. Does the family eat dinner together every night?
No.
We did tonight.
Yes.
So occasionally we try to. The boys are.
Biggest thing is they eat different food than us. Still.
They eat. Oh yeah. Most of what Brian and I eat is like grilled meat and salads, and they are not about
don't
that
like hardly either one.
Yeah.
So we meal prep them typically when we're on top of our game, and they eat early. And as soon as we get them done, a lot of times we eat.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that right now you get home a little bit later, and so, and I like for them to eat on time. So
yes.
I do. I hope that we can transition later and kind of eat more together. And we do try to do.
No, if we're all eating the same thing, we typically eat together. It's just more rare that happens.
Yeah.
But as they get older, we plan on that being more of a thing.
Yeah, and we do I do try to be cognizant of maybe like a meal a week, trying to make it one that we're all eating together. But it's tough right now. Okay. This one I guess could be for both of us. What kind of work do you do? You go first.
If you didn't know, go to our intro episode. I am in home building, residential.
Yes. Okay. And then I do sales analysis and development and marketing right now.
Yeah, which is, yeah, she does a lot.
Yes. Um, okay. Oh, we got another. It's funny that we had like a couple of them on who does most of the cooking. Okay. I think that covers it. There's a where did y'all meet, which we did on the last one. So we'll say
Just
Shelby
go back.
Dance Hall, Harmony Hall. Okay. Fun questions.
Yay!
You learn a little bit more about us.
If you have a question, discuss_with us Instagram. Like and
Yes.
follow.
Yes.
All right, so this week came up with this topic. I don't remember where it came from, but anyways, drum roll. We are talking about talents, God-given talents, and how we use them.
Yes. So yeah, recognizing and using our gifts for God. So first kind of bullet point here would be like, how do you go about recognizing your gifts?
Yeah, and look, for some people, I think it's easier than others. The
Yeah.
one that keeps popping in my head is like if you sing, if you have a beautiful voice or something,
Right.
be in the church choir or something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe if you're already like a teacher in your profession, like you teach Sunday school or something like that. Like some are a lot
Pretty obvious.
yeah, a lot easier to discern, maybe. But even for like myself, sometimes I think it's a little bit harder, and that's from someone who plays music. So,
Yeah.
but I'm not like in the choir or anything like that.
Right. And it doesn't necessarily like what we're talking about today doesn't necessarily have to be like how do you use them within the church.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's
Can be
what I'm saying.
outside
Like
of
the
the
low
church.
hanging fruit is when
Yes,
you're able to use it
yes.
in church.
Yes, for sure. So I put on here when like I said, this was my first bullet point, like recognizing your gifts, thinking about it. And like you said, a lot of them can be obvious, some of them not so much. I think it's a trial and error thing. If you're not sure, like what your specific gifts would be, then I would say maybe do start within your church and just volunteer for something, join some kind. There's always committees and teams and groups that are hosting different things within the church, and just maybe join up and see what float around, see what you like or don't like, or what you at least excel at and don't excel at. So, trial and error. And then I would say if you've got a significant other in your life, ask them. That's always
Yes,
interesting because
yeah.
I feel like they see you differently than you probably see yourself.
Yeah.
Or maybe
See things in you.
Yes, exactly. Because I know you've helped me a lot with my work.
Oh,
You've helped me a lot
tell
with
me more.
with my work where you're like, no, you need to lean into that. You do that well. I don't know. And were areas where I may have like lacked the confidence, you encourage me because you're like, no, you do that.
Yeah.
You handle that well.
No,
So,
that's true. That's what your partner's for.
yes, for sure.
So first, I guess define what do you mean by talents? Okay.
Talents and gifts.
They are biblical. So like 1 Corinthians 12, I think that's where Paul talks about kind of like the Holy Spirit coming upon you and how we're all individuals, and
Unique.
yes, we're all going to have unique talents. Like he's saying there, some people have the spirit of faith, some the
yeah.
gift of healing, another prophecy, discernment of spirits, different kinds of languages. And so when you read that, because you'll find, and we'll talk about a couple others. I'm starting with this one on purpose because when you read that passage, it's very broad, but it's also like he specifically says like different languages and stuff, and that's where it's like, okay, even if you don't have something, like I said, the easy low hanging fruit is using something in the church, but just in everyday a life how you use this, because the purpose of these talents is to champion God on earth.
Yes.
And that's why he gave us these talents. And so even I would say some people's talent is just almost having that childlike belief.
Yeah.
That's one that I've always gotten out of this passage, or like the gift of healing, being a doctor. Like you may be, and maybe that's just your career, but if you put a
And
focus on like
yeah.
how much, like, don't get run down in your job is what I would say. Even
Yeah.
if you're not a doctor, maybe
Well,
saving lives,
because
like
healing, you could look at it. You could look at it
spiritually and
literally
physically. Yeah.
and spiritually. Like if you are somebody who is really good at being at supporting someone who is going through something tough or dealing with grief, all those things. If you are good with words, good with how to serve
Yes.
them, able to support them, that is definitely a gift because not everybody is.
No, exactly. And that's why, like, there's, James, I think First Peter, there's an Old Testament one that also talks about it. But the talents run wild through the Bible. But I like this one because it's very broad. Like most of the other scriptures, I think, are just like everyone has talents and everyone should use them to
Yeah.
glorify God. This one kind of
Names
goes,
some.
yeah, it
Yeah,
names
gives
some,
you some
and
ideas.
it names some broad ones like
So
that.
say where that is so people can find it
That's
again.
1 Corinthians 12.
Okay.
But so, and this is the first part of it. So the first part of it kind of says those, and like I said, I like that one because I've taken it to where, like, oh, even if you just have, like, this is where I got my, sometimes if you smile to someone when you're just out and about, you never know when you've made their day. Like just
Yes.
having a happy disposition. I got that kind of out of this one. And so just in your job, even when you feel like you're doing mundane tasks, I think you've said this before during the Lenten episode, like giving chores up to God and stuff.
Yeah.
So I thought the same thing here with work. So it doesn't matter if you're a doctor, teacher, or just a day laborer. Like you could be part of a bigger picture here, and that's
Yes.
where the second half of this is where Paul talks about we are all individual parts of a body, and the for the body to be fully functional, even from the fingers to the feet to the
Yeah.
brain, we're all working
Yes.
together. And so that's where, even if you think you have the smallest or least important of talents, use that. And when things are running you down and you just, you get in the monotony, just remember there's a bigger purpose to why you're here and what you're
Yes.
doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, we talked about trial and error, discussion, kind of almost just sitting in silence about it, like waiting for God to lay something on your heart, So think about your gifts and know that just start somewhere, like recognize something about yourself and then try to play into that. Try to bring it to the surface more is what I would say.
Yeah, and so I'll read one part of this that does get me, because so he's talking about the body, and this is where also don't get run down on. I have a problem doing this. You see someone and envy kind of gets in you, and so let's say someone has a beautiful voice in the church choir, and you're like, I just wish that was, my talent. I don't have anything like that, and that's where he says, like on 16, I always like this. And if the ear were to say, because I am not the eye, I am not of the body, would it then not be of the body? If the whole body were the eye, how would it hear? If the whole were hearing, how would it smell? And so it's kind of funny, A, but B, it makes the
sense,
big
yeah.
point. Like, that's what I say. There's no talent that's greater than the others. Big or small. And
there are some that are more on display than others,
Yes.
but it doesn't have anything to do with their importance.
yeah, I mean, look,
Yeah.
everyone talks about what color eyes do you have and stuff like that. But you know what? Your ear's here.
Yes. Very
Some are big,
important.
some are small, but they all hear.
Yes. Very true. Okay. Is that all you had on
I think.
First Corinthians? Okay. So
I mean, I could read the whole thing if you want.
that's up to you. Okay. So then let's talk a little about ours, what we think ours are a little bit. Because I
Okay.
am curious. So for me, when I was trying to think about my gifts, I teach things well,
Yes, that's
like
true. Your
explain things
personality test
well.
came back as that.
Yeah, exactly. And I have told you this before. When I was a junior high cheerleader, we used to do the hosts program. I actually looked it up the other
A little
day, and
humble brag there about being a junior high cheerleader, huh?
yes.
See how she fit that in? Couldn't just be in junior high.
Well, no, it was the cheerleaders
I
that
know, I'm
did
just
it.
messing with you.
Leave me alone. So anyways, I'll have to look more into it because I tried to Google it the other day to
I remember
see.
host. I
Yeah.
did that.
But I don't know if it still exists or at least in that capacity. So I'll have to look because I've told you before I enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, I did
Like
it in
going,
college.
yeah, and going and volunteering your time with the kids
Yes.
that need a little extra help. They
Yeah,
need a
basically that was kids going into typically the reading lab that they weren't like they were just maybe a little behind their current
well,
reading
or
level or
even
just
just
struggling with
needed,
it.
yeah, or even just needed like the one-on-one,
Yeah.
needed the an additional person. Sometimes it's funny how
I
like
think
a
some kids
different
got to
person.
do it if they were doing well too. It
Yeah,
was like a
maybe
little
so.
treat.
And then I had a couple of students that were English as a second language, and
Ah,
they were still kind of figuring it. So it was
but
like spending that
it was a
extra
pretty
time.
cool thing because they would come in, you volunteered, you showed up for a period and you were there for like 20, 30 minutes
Yeah.
and the kids would come in and you just did reading assignments with them and
You had like a folder that was already
mhm,
prepared for
yeah,
you.
you had no prep work. You just showed
Yeah,
up and
you
did
just
what was
show
over there.
up and go through the folder with them and do the
But the
activities.
kids really liked that too
Yes,
because you
and you
were
bond with
older.
them over
Hmm.
time, and it's a different face that they're, not seeing. So I think it was really impactful. And I've told you, like, I enjoyed doing that. I would like to, so hold me accountable because I have to run this down. I
All
would
right.
like to get back to doing that. Just, I mean, obviously, once a week. I don't have a whole lot of extra like time, but I would like to do that because I think that is part of my gifts. I do enjoy that kind of thing.
Hmm.
And I liked the time, spent with the kids. I feel like it was impactful for both of us. And then another thing, I am, this feels like a humble brag to say, so it's
Well,
really
here we
kind of
go. Well,
awkward.
it's your talents. I think
I
they're
know
all
it's
going to
it's
somewhat feel
awkward to
like
like
that.
be like, this is what I think I'm good at.
Yeah.
But I
We should
am,
have described each other probably.
yeah, I
That
guess
was a
so.
swing and a miss.
I know.
Next
This,
time.
yeah, this shows you how well we go through, like how much we prep for this kind of thing. Okay, but I am a wordsmith of sorts. I really like to put all the right words in place in an
Okay. I don't even
email
know what
and
wordsmith means. Okay. Now I get it.
okay, yeah, like if I'm
Sounds like a computer program, but
no, like if I, for example, if I'm texting and, texting a friend who's going through something or trying to figure something out, or
oh
like
yeah.
I like to
Yeah,
spend
you
time
like think it
picking,
through,
I
yeah.
like thinking through the right words. So that one, you think about that and it's like, okay, well, how do you use that though? And one thing that I have done for several years now, and it's because I actually had someone do this for me, is I send cards and notes for good times, bad. I
Oh
try
yeah.
to do it
Hmm.
even just out of the blue. If somebody's going through something tough, I try to send them a card. And like I said, this isn't like some grand idea I had. I actually had a lady who would send me things.
Hmm.
Nina Hopkins.
Hmm.
For those that know her, you probably received a card from her as well.
Hmm. Exactly.
And she would do like if she saw something from the time we were kids, young adults, if she saw like our name in the newspaper, she would cut it out and laminate it, put it in a card, write you this like page long note in there. And I just always thought that was so thoughtful and such a good,
Mm-hmm.
impactful use of her time. So I try to do some of those things. And, when I do get in a good routine of doing that, it feels good. So I'm going to try to kind of lean into that some more as well.
All right, I'm making a list here.
That one I already do, so that one's not super hard. And then this will be good switching over to you, but hosting people. You and I both like to host,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is funny coming from you because you're just, I don't know, you do and you don't. Like maybe you just like it because I like it. I don't know.
No, I do
You
like
do
it.
enjoy it, but
Just don't like
hosting
all the
people.
prep work for it.
Yeah, all the prep work can be kind of a pain, but we do like to host people, and I feel like that's kind of a gift of ours.
We've talked about that, yeah.
Exactly, and we will come back to that, talking about hosting a little bit. But go into yours. What do you think yours are? I had to
Okay,
say
well,
it out.
I
It's
will
really awkward
claim
to say it
that
out
as
loud.
number one for me. I'll
Okay.
just go ahead and say hosting people. Um, Low hanging fruit again. I'm pretty musically inclined, so
Right.
we'll go with music. Um, this will be somewhat. It kind of goes with hosting, but follow me here. I think
Okay.
I can be quasi entertaining.
Oh,
Um,
yes. You
Sometimes, given the situation,
are
and
very
really, where my
entertaining.
head goes for this is we haven't done it enough. Consistently, but it's always been an idea. What I was thinking of when I say entertaining was um, like when we've taken the boys um, to sing Christmas carols and stuff, like
Oh,
entertaining
yes,
with
yes, yes, yes,
elderly and stuff
yes.
like that. I'm not talking about just in the general sense, but we it goes beyond just doing it. It's like thinking it through of like
Yeah.
what's going to be, because you kind of have to do that with music sometimes too, or hosting,
Mm-hmm.
like what activities you're going to do, so kind of how you set things up to make it the
Yeah.
most impactful for people. I think kind of have a knack for that. um,
Yes.
I cook, and um, there
Mm-hmm.
have been times in the past I've used that to try to help others. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's just family or friends that come over, but
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll say podcasting maybe,
Yes.
which that would be the one. So this is awkward. You didn't tell me how weird it was talking about
I
yourself in
know
this
it is. See,
sense.
I told you.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get out of this real quick and transition us to. So we'll quit talking about each other and say, how do you get here to figure these out? Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think prayer is definitely the probably most important.
Yeah.
And I'll circle back to that one at the end. Darcy
Mm-hmm.
already kind of spoke to you about asking others.
Yeah.
Spouses or close friends and family are probably a good place to start,
Mm-hmm.
because they see a different reflection of you than maybe what you
Yes.
perceive. I would say paying attention to what you enjoy.
Yes. Like
Um,
what energizes you,
yeah,
even when it is also work.
even
Like we're.
small things like I I didn't grow up cooking all the time and stuff like that, and my dad wasn't he didn't cook all the meals or anything like that. My
Mhm.
mom cooked, but she kind of once we started all eating different things, it's kind of hard to
Yeah.
make all those meals. So
Accommodate.
it kind of came out of nowhere. But I realized I was interested in watching like Food Network and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and I would like to try things out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I'm kind of just see what
Lean
gets the
into
juices
what.
flowing
Yeah.
for you.
Exactly.
I mean, you could kind of say that about any of your hobbies and stuff like that. But if there's a hobby you like, maybe look further in depth into that.
Right.
And so we'll circle back to the prayer, because for that's kind of like how podcasting came about for us. So I had talked about doing off and on
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that all the time, all the way back even into college, but I never did anything with it.
Yeah.
And so once again, I'll say music's always been kind of the forefront thing of like, oh, just do the church choir or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. And for one reason or another, it's never really lined up, and it's not exactly let's just say church choir is a little bit different than the
Than the gigs
style
you
I'm
normally
usually in. And I've done it. I'll do it from time to time and stuff, but it feels unnatural to me. And that's more of a me thing.
Right.
But at this point, it's also like with the kids and stuff, it'd just be a challenge to
Oh,
do.
yeah.
And so I kind of started getting annoyed. We tried, before we had kids, we taught Sunday school for, I don't even think it was a full, like half a year. Was it the full year?
Yeah, it was like a full year.
Couldn't remember if we did it the whole time or not. And we did that, and that was fine. I thought we were good at it. Like, you're a
Yes.
good teacher. And so we kind of taught the class together. But once again, now we've got kids, and it was just like struggle, struggle, struggle.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I was like, well, I have all this stuff, and I had prayed about it a little bit, but it
Have
was
all this stuff as an equipment. You're just
yeah,
like people can see you.
Well, they know what I mean. But I'll call back again when we did the When God Speaks episode, or How God Speaks to You episode. It kind of just light bulb went off in my head of like, we should do this together, and I think that's been
Well, I told you originally. I said you need to do a podcast. I
Yeah.
called you.
but
and
you
I
didn't
was-
mean this.
No, I didn't mean this at all. I just meant you. I was like, call Aaron.
Yeah.
And y'all get together and do a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And then the light bulb went off of like, let's do this and let's do it Christian. And that was a way to, because we've talk about hosting, we've hosted Bible
Yeah.
studies and stuff, but we just were in a rut of not feeling like we were doing a lot. And this was something that kind of just
I
popped
think
up.
especially when you're going to church with little kids, and like we have said multiple times on here, it's hard to really glean a lot
Yeah.
of application from what you're hearing, because you're not hearing much. Like, it's
Yeah.
still obviously good and fulfilling and satisfying and all those things, peace giving to go. I'm not saying that.
Right.
It's just, it feels like you need to do more, maybe,
Exactly.
or you want to do more.
And
even,
I'm
so.
not saying everyone out here needs to start a podcast. I'm saying that was something that just kind of struck me. And we both like listening. I listen to radio or podcasts pretty much. And it's funny because I play
Yeah.
music, but like 24/7. That's mainly what I listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just kind of popped up for us as like something to do. But I wouldn't have gotten there without kind of practicing. And I, you have to practice these things, which is what we're doing right now. Practicing in front of everybody. But
Yeah.
that you kind of put all these things together, and maybe something unique like this pops up. Or again, go back to what you're doing job wise, and maybe there's a different area over there, or maybe it even just makes your 9 to 5 feel better when you realize you're part of the whole body helping things to
Yes.
exist.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. And I think going back to also just trial and error. If you have zero idea of where to start, and you're asking around and praying and just still struggling, just start somewhere. Start spending your time. And again, this is kind of back to the church. There's always like church committees and, things that they're planning and events they're doing and groups that are hosting and whatever. There's always something, or even like cleanup crews for events. I mean, there's
Yeah.
something out there, and just try something, start,
Yeah, and if
and
you
it'll open doors. I feel like.
exactly. And if you struggle, this is a funny one that I thought of. So I drive in Houston all day, and all over the city. And when we were struggling to do stuff, that's where like that First Corinthians is always funny to me, because sometimes I'm a fairly patient driver.
Yes.
Like I don't get, and I've had spurts of it. Like it's not like I've never gotten angry driving, but for the most part, I try to not be in a rush wherever I'm going. And I kid you not, this is applicable to this. I'll let people cut in line more times than not.
Oh, yeah, you
not
do.
saying I do it. Yeah, not saying I do it every time.
Yeah,
There
it
are
drives
times.
me a little nuts sometimes.
Well,
you
but
do.
think about it this way. the same way, I'm always like, if you just have like a happy, positive disposition, if you're in the grocery store or something, you never know if you're impacting someone's
Right.
day. And I think that can be a talent. Well, Houston traffic and all the road rage and stuff, I'm like, you know what? If I let you cut in front of me, it's not even so much to pay it forward, but maybe, probably not, but maybe that person there is like, man, I thought that was going to be a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
And I can't believe that guy just let me in. Or I'll slow down to let someone cut across and go through the lanes and stuff like that. And look, part of this is that I hope when I'm in that position, people do it for me.
Yes.
But I also like that's what I'm saying. There's no gift that's too small. Like that's just being
Yeah.
patient.
Yes.
And so that's where you can just kind of look in, like maybe let someone slide in on the feeder lane, even though they should have known
Yeah.
to get over.
But even just
2
like you're
miles
saying
back.
that, and you've never really even voiced that to me before, and I'm like sitting over here nodding my head because
Yeah.
you do that all the time. So even those little things that you're doing, they're noticeable, and you kind of have said this a couple different ways here, but like you are the friendliest person ever to the drive-through order takers. You are. And we've talked about that one before, how like I think your time in the service industry may have definitely played a part in that.
Maybe.
But my point is, I notice that you do that all the time. He's almost like a different person. He can be like talking and grumpy with me, and then when they're like, you know, what'll it be? It's like, oh hey, how's your day going? Okay, I'll take a number one. Like you're very.
That can be a crummy job.
I know, and you try to make it a lot. You try to improve their day.
Exactly.
And it's little things, but again, they're just because they're little does not mean that they go unnoticed.
Well, and that's the point here.
Yes,
is
exactly.
You don't all have to do that. I know most of us maybe don't, but there may be something else.
Yes.
Maybe like if you like to cook stuff like that, maybe someone needs a meal. In your church, in your community,
Yeah.
something like that.
Or, I mean, we've talked about this before too. It can even be outside of your church. Think your family. Like if you've
Yeah.
got an elderly, some elderly family members or something, cook a big meal for them and take them over. Get in the routine of trying to, like, when you do have a bunch of leftovers, taking them a tray.
Yeah, and it's funny how a lot of all the episodes we've done so far, I mean, I guess we'll probably say this at 30, 40, 50 episodes too. It all ends up tying together. Like if you're doing some of these things, because really the way we come up with these topics is just things we've been doing to try to grow our own
It's true.
faith and relationship. And it goes all the way back to like, take a personality test, see
Yeah.
that will help you on like the self-reflection and maybe help you find some either on the nose talents you have or maybe even a deeper one if you're not ready to use.
Or just improving your weaknesses, like we talked.
Yeah.
So yeah. No,
But you kind of start there, do some self-reflection and prayer and just, you may find like, oh yeah, I'm doing a lot already and that's perfectly fine. But if you felt like us, because we have been in that side of the door where it's like
the season that we're in, like our want to is there, but our time and ability to do so with the logistics we're dealing with is
not always there.
Not always there, yeah.
But yeah, that's the point.
Work with what you have,
exactly.
what you can. Another point that I wanted to make in regards to gifts and stuff is like, when you use the word like gifts and talents, it makes it sound like very natural.
Yes.
And like it's all gonna just, once you figure it out, like it's gonna come very natural for you and it's gonna all fall into place.
This big thing too.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it does, but I wanted to give an example of us, like we were talking about, so looping back to hosting, we both like to host. And so I don't even remember exactly where we came upon this conversation, but this was several years ago. And it may have been when we, like early on when we moved in this place, because it has a guest house. And so early on we were having discussions about like, different family members and whatnot that might live there over, any course of time. And then I remember, like we were talking about that, and then I had this thought that I was like, "Are we? Is that biting off more than we can chew? Like, should we just make that our guest bedroom and not worry about trying to, have somebody live in it all the time? Because
Right.
we don't have a guest bedroom in our house."
I know.
And so I kind of backed off of that, and I was like, "Wait, okay, let's time out here. And is this actually what we want to do?" And then thinking about that, because I kind of freaked myself out because we'd already kind of talked about, having different people stay. And I was like, wait, do I need to take a step back? And then I can still remember, like, I was getting ready in our bathroom or something and just having this thought of, like, no, you know what? It may not always be comfortable for us. There may be days that we wish that that was a guest, bedroom
Right.
instead of having somebody there. But we're going to lean into it because you and we I think everybody is called to hospitality,
Mm-hmm.
but I think some people might be more equipped or more, talking about like personality tests, like you might be more inclined to want to do that. So while I think we all have a call to hospitality, some of us, that might be something that we lean into well. And
And it's been a blessing for
it
us the
has
whole
been
time.
the biggest blessing, having people stay in our guest house thus far, and we look forward to it, for years to come.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole point that I'm trying to make is that when we talk about gifts and talents, like I said, we might tend to think that it's all going to fall into place and that it's going to be easy and just a blessing all the time. And I think the truth is, like we said, like ours has been a blessing literally this entire time thus far. But what I am open to is it not being as much of a blessing or being an inconvenience, because I do think it is a calling of ours. And ultimately any gift that God has given us does place a calling on our life, and it's not always going to be convenient. Just because it's our gift doesn't mean necessarily that what we do with it is going to be within our comfort zone. It may not all fall into place. It may actually be kind of a lot of work. But I think prayerfully we discern what our gifts are and we put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was having kind of, and I think this is where this topic came up, because I'm reading this book.
Oh yeah, there we go.
I'm reading this book called The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis. And I mentioned it because I had heard an excerpt of it. I mentioned it several
Yeah.
episodes back,
Mm-hmm.
like way back. And I heard an excerpt on my devotional on the Hallow app, and I was very intrigued. And so I bought the book and I've been reading it. And essentially, it is depicting people who are transitioning from earth to heaven or hell,
Mm-hmm.
and how they're greeted in heaven by these angels. And you'll have to read this because I'm like really skating over a lot of
Well, we're
good stuff
gonna
here.
go over this in a few weeks.
Yeah, but what has struck me and just been so interesting is all these different people, like how we can miss heaven so easily, by basically what we're spending our time doing on earth. Like, for example, there's a lady that, the angel's trying to get her to come with me, you'll understand, you'll see, come to the mountains. It's all, that's what they're saying in the
Mm-hmm.
book, come to the mountains. You'll understand there. And she, because they're all like, when they show up to this place, C.S. Lewis describes them as like ghastly, like
Okay.
ghost like. Okay. And she's so self conscious.
Don't ruin it. I still want to read
I
it.
know, but she's so self conscious about how she looks that she won't go into the mountains with the angel.
Oh.
She's like, and the whole time the angel's trying to, they call him the spirit's trying to get them, convince them, like, come, I promise you'll understand, it'll all make sense, and telling them all about this. And they'll almost get there, and you'll see like the hesitation, and then they'll be like, she'll say like, I can't, not looking like this, I can't.
Mm.
And they turn it down.
Wow.
And so the whole book is that's kind of the premise, is like different people's reasonings, what you get so caught up in essentially that you can miss heaven.
Yeah.
And so that has had an impact on me, because I'm like, man, 90% of our time here on earth, if not more, is just like running the rat race,
Yeah.
like we talk about, and making ends meet, and trying to do a decent job with our kids, which okay, raising our children maybe is God's work, but point is,
Hopefully.
there's a lot of ways that we are distracted.
Yes.
There's a lot of ways that the world has a firm grip on us, and so it's made me think about, like, we spend all of this time planning for our futures and our careers and educating ourselves and putting in all this effort. I mean, think about effort and money and all this stuff that we put into planning and forging our careers and what our life is going to look like. Like, imagine if we spent just a portion of that time trying to figure out what God's purpose for us is.
Exactly. And that's why it can be big, small, all in between.
Yes.
Use it with those mundane tasks you're doing in your job and
Yeah.
stuff. Just remember, all those things should glorify Him.
Yes.
Really. Everything we do, honestly.
Yeah, and like earlier I talked about doing the host program, and I want to volunteer, and that is great. I do want to go do that. So it may look like that, something like that for you, that is very like I don't know, separately tangible from like the rest of what you're spending your life doing. Or to Brian's point, it might just be,
You may just let someone cut you in line on the road.
yes. Or you may, we talked about this several weeks ago, you may dedicate your load of laundry to the Lord. So point is, what if we kind of spent that kind of time and energy that we put into the rest of our life, and what it's going to look like, and spent just a little bit of time thinking about, like, what is my purpose here? What has God put me here to do? What am I in this place to do? And spend a little time developing that and looking for those opportunities.
Exactly. We'll leave it with one more passage, Matthew 5:16. So then let your light shine in the sight of men, so that they may see your good works and may glorify your Father who is in heaven.
There you go.
That kind of sums it up.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't even need a podcast.
Yeah. Just read this.
Yeah.
So that will do it for us today. Search out your talents. Just kind of do some self-reflection.
Soul searching.
Yes. Try to put all that into one word.
Yeah.
And see what comes out on the other side.
Yeah. Okay. So next week, I think we are going to circle back to our love languages part 2 with our guests.
Yes. Hopefully so. We're well on our way to getting recordings now.
Yeah, we've done an interview. We've got another one we want to do. So be looking for that next week, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll see if we get there this time.
Okay. Well, that's all for me.
Yes. So now that we have unpacked our talent search for God, unpacked our talents, you go discuss.